Okay, we should be live on LinkedIn and YouTube, so that's exciting. Now we'll go live here and let me press record. Hello, everyone. You are here for our monthly chat series, What's the Buzz? Thank you so much for joining us this month. My name is Amy Keenan. I am your host. I'm the person that shows up here every month, the second Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern for 20 minutes, inviting some amazing ISVs to come join me and chat about different business processes, tips and tricks, automation, trends, industry updates, all of the things to keep you updated in this space. So I'm so excited to have Cole here from Quadient to talk all about elevating your vendor payment workflows with automated AP, because imagine a world where your vendors are paid on time, your AP team is stress-free, and you save money in the process. I mean, that's a win-win for everybody, Cole. I'm so excited to chat with you today about it.
Awesome. Yeah, very excited to be here. Thanks for the intro, Amy. So yeah, let's just jump right on into it. So thanks everyone again for joining. Today we're going to discuss, the critical topic in accounts payable, real-time payment updates. So the traditional approach to payment updates is slow, it's manual and error-prone, which can create bottlenecks. So Quadient is here to help, change that. Our goal is to make the accounts payable process more efficient and streamlined so your team can focus on growth instead of those manual tasks. Now, Amy, I don't know if you have much experience with, vendor relations and getting bills on time, but would love to know your input on that.
Sure. So me being a vendor, yeah, I would love to get paid on time. I'm not a big fan of sending out invoices and doing all the financial stuff. I can tell you that. I don't like reminding people to pay their invoices or chasing them down. Not my favorite part of the job of being an entrepreneur and owning my own business, but it has to get done. So I'm always looking for ways to obviously make it as easy as possible. And I'm sure everybody here is looking for easy ways to make it easier for them too.
Fantastic. I love that. We all have our own experience, but we're all relatively in the same boat.
Yes.
Perfect. So vendors, they play a vital role ensuring your operations run smoothly. But late payments and unclear communication can generally weaken these relationships. So one of the main ways that we can maintain strong vendor relationships is by providing transparency. So when vendors are kept in the loop with real-time updates on their payment statuses, it really builds the trust. So that transparency, it's going to lead to smoother collaboration, fewer disputes, making both your team and your vendors a lot happier. So Quadient AP, really helps to streamline your payment process in several ways. The first way we provide is real-time visibility. So vendors can easily check their payment statuses without back and forth communication. The second thing we look at doing is, automate the manual tasks that often lead to errors, reducing the human involvement and freeing up your team's overall time. And our solution integrates seamlessly with your existing accounting software. So meaning you don't have to worry about any complex setup. We're ERP agnostic, so we can work with any ERP on the market. And the result really ultimately comes to, faster payments, fewer errors, and better communication with your vendors. I know we all have times of, chasing back emails or calls that aren't getting answered. So I think this is relevant to most. So why should you choose Quadient AP? So by enhancing transparency and ensuring faster payments, you build a stronger sense of trust with your vendors. Automation not only improves accuracy and speed, but it also reduces the time your team spends on manual tasks. It's a future-proof solution, ready to scale with your business as it grows. In short, it's about making your process more efficient, building better relationships, and setting your team up for long-term success. So what I have for us in store as well is a short demonstration of Quadient AP. So I'm just going to pull that open for us here, and we're just going to walk through our payments module and give you a little rundown of how that looks. Now, Amy, do you see that screen there?
Yes, it looks good.
Fantastic. So what we're looking at here is the Quadient accounts payable automation software, and we're in our payments module as we speak. So for a quick rundown on how this works, after we've, received your invoices, coded those automatically for you, routed those invoices for those to the appropriate approvers, sent that information back into your ERP, all your invoices are going to end up here in this Create tab. This is essentially a way for us to have visibility on what invoices are outstanding and are still needing to be paid. In this Create tab, this is essentially where we're having the organization and that aging report built in. So we're organizing your invoices for you by vendor. Now, this is, typically a little better than having, just a list of all your invoices that you're struggling to sift through. So we have this organized. So in this example, we have things like BDO accountants, Titleist uniforms for you. We can break these out. We can have this be, a little bit more visible on how many invoices for each of those vendors, our aging report when it came in, how long it's been sitting in our system, or in this case, how quickly we forgot about one of our vendors and they're not happy. Essentially giving us that visibility, which is always key. And from here, what we're doing is we're just selecting those invoices that we want to pay, and we now can process to that Create Payment tab. When we do so, it pushes everything over into this in progress. This is now where we can then review our payment information, because a lot of the times, whether we have, ACH or EFT set up with the bank, we're having to go into the bank, fill out that information manually to make sure that it's actually getting sent to the correct vendor with the correct amounts. Otherwise, the worst case scenario is we're still printing out those paper checks. We have to go through our ERP, print them manually, sign the checks, put them in the envelopes, things like that. So with Quadient AP, really what we're looking to do is at this step of the game, we can review our invoices, so we can see the actual image of our invoice. We can make sure that the preferred payment method is all correct. So this company here is looking to get paid via check. We can see the bank account which this is being drawn from, whether or not it's set to an auto release. Again, this is more of a review step for us to really show us, hey, is this what we want to commit to? Once here, this is where we can have this sent for that additional approval. Now, Amy, I'm not sure how much experience you have, but the approval workflow is typically something that a lot of companies struggle with. We're always waiting on communication back and forth. So have you had an experience where waiting on someone to approve something has kind of been a deterrent for yourself?
Yes, and for one of the ISVs I used to work for, yeah, we used to have to like constantly say, hey, where is this? Is it still in the approval stage? Like trying to, kind of getting to get updates so that we knew when we were paying our vendors because they're asking us and we don't have the insights all the time into what's going on behind the scenes. So, yep.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we've all been there at some point in the game. So at this step, obviously we have, whether it be our accounts payable specialist, our CFO, whoever's managing the payments to then review this. And all we're going to do is submit it off for this approval. When we do so, we have everything set up through approval channels in the background. So now we're going to route this to the individual that's necessary to approve, and it happens automatically. When we get there, it's very straightforward. That approver will get an email notification. It'd be like, hey, Amy, here are some, payments needing your approval. Otherwise, we do have a mobile app, which is quite user-friendly as well, which you just get a ping on your phone, which is nice, directing them to this approvals tab as well. And from here, it's really straightforward. Again, we get to look at that invoice, if there was any comments left for us by the previous member. And then it's really straightforward. That thumbs up, approving that, or hit that reject for whatever reason. We don't know what it is. And then from there, when we're happy with this and everything's been approved, it flows back over to our release tab. So this release tab is now, if we had it set up to an auto release payment will just flow automatically on a given day, or whether it be set up, upon approval. But essentially, the moment we select our invoice, we hit that release payment, Quadient AP, we draw the funds directly from your account and distribute off to your vendors on your behalf. There's no holdings accounts that you need to fund, which is nice. And payment is usually received to your vendors within 2 to 3 business days. So again, very quick, very easy. The visibility, your vendors will receive a remittance email providing them context of what payments are coming. There's also a link to view the status and see where that payment is live. So if it's still waiting to be sent via ACH or EFT, or if it's coming via Canada Post or US Mail for checks and things like that, we take on that liability, make sure it gets out to your vendors, have that visibility back and forth.
Can you have, I'm assuming you can have multiple approvers and it can go through approval workflows and so forth, or you could have no approvers and just have it go to payment.
Of course, yeah, and that's the nice thing with Quadient AP is that we are very flexible in regards to how complex you want your approval workflow to be, or how lenient you want it to be with not an approver at all. It's basically as complex and as complicated as you would like it. Whether it be two, three, four, five approvers, you can group them together. Again, the approval channels we build out in the background, we teach each of our customers how to create them themselves. We obviously help them set them up at the beginning, so that way, we can make those edits as necessary. But very straightforward and pretty sophisticated in the sense of the approval workflow.
Nice.
Yeah. And then one last thing to consider as well. I know on the market, there's a lot of, again, the conversation comes of transparency. So whether you're creating, payments through Quadient AP or you choose to do so with how you're currently doing it now through your ERP, the bilateral sync with the integration is fantastic because we can see the payment status flow back and forth from your ERP to Quadient AP. So that way we're never going to be double paying. There's never going to be a lack of visibility in that regard to the actual payments themselves.
That makes it easy.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, right?
We all
Um,
like
at-
easy.
yeah, we like easy, we like hassle-free.
Yes.
Um, at this step as well, we have a couple options in regards to payments. So when we hit this release payments button, like I said, the first option, which I kind of touched on, was releasing funds to a payment provider who's going to submit this on your behalf. A lot of companies they like this for the ease. It's a lot less manual in the sense of having to worry about anything. But some companies, it's important for them to have the control. They want to be able to release the payments in-house. They want to go through their own bank. They don't want to outsource to a payment provider. So what's nice with Quadient is that we have the ability to also release these payments into a notcha file. So essentially, this is a file which is then ingested into whichever bank you're currently using in North America, outlining all the payment details, ACH, EFTs, and wires. That way, you can just process it directly through your bank, submit it on how you would currently do it now without having to manually enter all this information one by one.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the little demonstration portion I have for us. We can jump back into the slides here. So that kind of brings us to the end of my presentation in regards to what we had for the demo piece and kind of the discussion around the payables. So we kind of discussed how real-time vendor payment updates can transform your AP, automation process and strengthen vendor relationships. So I'd be happy to answer any, questions or have more of a conversation around this in regards to, AP automation as a whole or just the payment side of things.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask one more question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you work with numerous ERP, so it doesn't matter what ERP a customer has. It's just an API, or how does that work?
Yeah, so depending on the actual ERP, obviously we have a lot of out-of-the-box integration. So,
Okay.
the standards of Sage, the QuickBooks, Microsoft, things like that, all the big players, those are typically out-of-the-box integrations. Most of them are going to be an API. Otherwise, we have a sync tool, which was developed in-house, which we own, which we would just have installed on the, server or desktop to be able to have that information flow freely. And then outside of the major ERPs, typically we can build an API connection and have that flow seamlessly back and forth. So the integration piece again is key. Nobody wants to have a software that doesn't push information back and forth appropriately. Otherwise, you kind of just have a brick on your hand. So
Yeah, exactly. Do you find that a lot of people are still, when they do this, even if they automate, let's say, and they
mhm.
use AP automation, do you find that a lot of customers still want to mail paper checks?
I don't think there's very many customers out
Okay.
there that I've spoken to that still want to, be sending checks. I think in the market today as well, I think on the news we hear a lot more of, check fraud, scrubbing of checks. There's been countless movies made on it. Um, Leonardo DiCaprio, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a great movie. So yeah, so I think the real move for a lot of companies in this, space is to get away from the paper checks. Obviously, we recognize, some vendors are going to want still to have the few checks here and there. But electronic payments are the step in the right direction future-wise, and it's going to be a little bit more safe in that regard.
Oh, Jill says, catch me if you can.
There you go. Yep, great movie. I think Tom Hanks is in that one too.
Yeah, that is a good movie. And so my other question was, Do you find that when people are using AP automation, right? And they're using payments. I know for me, we always have, depending on how we're accepting payments, whether it's ACH, credit card, EFT, there's always these fees associated with it. Do you
Mhm.
find that there are ways to kind of not eliminate those fees, but maybe make them less? Or did you find that everybody has those fees and it's just universal thing?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I think depending on everyone's situation, as it might be different. Some ERPs or banks, for instance, offer, free payments, which it might be, more beneficial to go that route. But typically, without having automation in place, we still see the manual steps. So it really comes down to, how much manual intervention do we want to have in place, whether, it makes our payment fees reduced, or does having the automation in place, having everything centralized in one space, and then having obviously a transaction fee or whatever it might look like in that regard. I think that is really just dependent on the customer themselves and how much they want to be, again, manually having to process their payments, or if they really want it to be hands off. It's kind of options for either way.
And I'm assuming you also do like reminders, like if invoices are coming due, if they're overdue, or do you have like this automated process for reminders as well, or to alleviate that from the AP department from constantly have to call people to remind them and so forth?
Exactly. Yeah. So in that original create tab, we kind of have that aging built in. So you have, that 1 through 30, 31 through 60. And within there, you can have those reminders set in place. So if something's coming up, especially accounts payable that's reviewing this, will have, that notification to let them know, hey, this is coming up. We need to be able to process this. And the nice thing is we can, allow for the payments to be, processed prior to actually releasing the payment. So that way, when we want to take full advantage of those payment terms, we can then just click the button to release the payment when necessary. But at least that way we have the approvals and everything done prior.
Nice. One more question before we wrap up. So,
Yeah,
do you find that there might be bottlenecks in the approval process? Like someone might be taking too long to approve something, or they approve it and then someone else has to approve it, and that might take long. So, do you find that there are bottlenecks in that process? Is there reminders for those approvers to keep the workflow going and so forth?
of course. Yeah. So this is something that is brought up quite often. I think we all know in all of our companies we work for who we're waiting on the most and things like that. So with Quadient AP, we have an analytics tab. So you can really see your approvers, who's approving things, on time, who's taking longer to approve. And then as the admin login, we can actually increase notifications to those individuals that aren't approving things on time. So that way we can, help poke the bear a little bit more and be like, please approve. But we have visibility into that, so we can kind of see that directly from the software. And we have, like I said, the ability to increase that notification or those reminders to those individuals that might take a little longer to get their approvals done.
Yes. Even, when you're doing projects internally or doing anything, you have somebody has to approve something at some point, no matter what. So it's like having to constantly remind people sometimes can be
Hmm.
kind of annoying. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
exactly. And the
But if you
biggest
have it
thing,
automated, then I'm not being the annoying one, the system is.
exactly. It's exactly what I was just about to say. At least it's coming from a system and not
Yeah.
not you through Teams or Slack or whatever it might be directly.
Oh, that's the annoying person again reminding me I have to do this,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cole, for being here for our monthly chat series, What's the Buzz? So excited to have you here chatting about AP and vendor payments and just having that whole automation and workflow and just, again, being able to pay vendors quickly, easily, and automated. So it's less manual work for those in the AP department, which we can all vouch for less manual work. That's for sure.
I agree. And thanks so much for having me on today, Amy. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to speaking with anybody that found this interesting and wants to learn more.
Yes, and I will be sending out the email with the recording, so feel free to make sure you view that, share with your team, and of course, reach out to Quadient with any questions. So thank you everyone for joining us for the September What's the Buzz monthly chat. Have a great day.